9 p.m. Lots of tricks or treats in Hillcrest.
He wears it well.
He does. He really does. All right, turning now to the man who burned down a historic southern Indiana home. He is facing several years in prison.
WDRB Stefan Johnson tells us about the history and also the future of the iconic George Rogers Clark home site.
This is the land where the iconic George Rogers Clark home site stood for years. This chimney is all that's left of the house, and now the man convicted of burning it down is facing up to 12 years in prison.
My house is really close to the fire.
Brandon Skaggs is chief of the Clarksville Fire Department.
I looked out my back window and I could see the smoke coming from the Clark cabin.
He was on the scene in May of 2021 when the replica of the historic George Rogers Clark home burned down.
We had about 15 to 16 firefighters of our own, Clarksville, but we also called for mutual aid.
Shortly after the fire, investigators identified Jason Fossey as a suspect, and this week he pleaded guilty to arson.
So this case ensures the conviction, in my mind, ensures that there's going to be several years executed in prison, but also balances some uncertainty as to what would happen at trial.
Clark County Prosecutor Jeremy Mole says Fossey has been in custody since his arrest and is scheduled to be sentenced on November 27th.
My office will be asking the judge to send him to prison for several years and probably ask for a maximum sentence on the 12 years.
You know, the cabin was an 1830 cabin.
Alan Gostein is an interpretive naturalist at the Falls of the Ohio State Park and says the cabin was a replica but used to educate students and share the story of George Rogers Clark.
Throughout the years, we were able to bring in staff, reenactors, volunteers, both for programming like Clark Days and things like that.
Right now, the town of Clarksville is working on a plan and will get community input on how the iconic cabin will be replaced. With photojournalist Jeff Gordon, I'm Stefan Johnson, WDRB News.